All right, guys, I'm here with Joel Jamal. Awesome name.
You nailed it, mate. Well done.
Is it? Did I do good? Okay, good. Well, Suntoy, people struggle with my name. They're like George Mammalus or George Mammals. I got George Marmalade for a long time as well, which I think was more of a racial thing, to be honest. But but yeah, we were just discussing off the air then. You recently did an SBS debate chat with some prominent, I want to call them prominent, influencers. Abby Chatfield, the political banter guy. Who else was there? Hannah.
Yeah, Hannah from Cheek Media.
Cheek,
great
yeah,
merch, vibrators.
Yeah, they got great media, Cheek Media. What else is there? Freya, she's cool. I've interviewed Freya before. I've had a. Well, actually, you should watch my interview with her. That's hilarious.
Right, I haven't seen. No, I didn't know she did one.
Yeah, we did an interview together, and the intention was supposed to be about the election, but I ended up going down this whole rabbit hole about Jewish conspiracy because I basically just told her every Jewish conspiracy I've ever heard of, and I went deep, like really deep, like almost Alex Jones level of deep on her. And she handled it very well, but I wanted to know what her thoughts were like, and she hadn't even heard of half of these theories, so it was really interesting watching her like react and in disgust to these theories.
Yeah. It was interesting talking with her because she's when I first met her, and I caught up with her before the debate because we hadn't really chatted before.
Yeah.
And I just said, look, these are my strengths. I don't know about you and whatever. I was actually shocked how young she was. She's 22.
Yeah.
And I realized I'm getting old. You know, I know
how
I
old are
look
you?
older. I look like I'm in my 30s, but I'm actually 28 and I've been doing this for 6 years. And you realize you're not 22 anymore, Joel. And so, yeah.
No, well, to be fair, no, I'll be honest with you. You do look not youngish, but you do look young. I wouldn't say you looked like in your late 30s or anything like that. You do. I think you do look your age. I'll be honest. But yeah, Freya is incredible. And Freya ran at 19 years old when she first started her political career, which is quite extraordinary, to be honest. That's how I actually first came across her. Saw her 19 doing this. Like, wow, that's pretty brave. But then, yeah, when the whole Israel-Palestine thing went down, it was interesting watching that unfold because that was it's a very complicated conversation.
I was pretty upset when that thing went down, how distracted everyone got. I mean, we had our referendum on a week out from when the October 7th thing happened. Like, don't get me wrong, you can say something, but it's like everyone dropped the ball the last week out from the referendum. And it's like, guys, stay focused on the target. We've got a referendum to amend our constitution. And I feel similarly right now in this moment. I've been tossing up whether I make a full takedown of the SBS debate because I went through all the fact checks and mate, the gall the fact checkers had and how wrong they are on the data was astonishing. And look, my people know it. But the average people out there, the punter out there that may have seen our stuff for the first time are thinking, who the hell is this idiot? He's disagreeing with 97% of all scientists. That's wrong. I mean, that fact check alone was hilarious that they even used that data point, which has been debunked many times. But yeah, we never really, a lot was cut, about an hour was cut. But I chose not to get distracted because we're in the middle of an election and no one is really running. And this is a bit about what I do. No one is really running like the ground game, giving people the skills to actually know how to hand out, how to vote card, what are the voting records of members of parliament. I didn't want to get distracted. Yeah. And so, so I was like, I'm going to do this after the election.
Yeah, fair enough. Look, I've addressed that in my video and I'm going to make shorter clips to try and push it out to my audience. But yeah, the whole time I was watching that, these fact checks are they're like basically propaganda. Like you mentioned the climate change one, because I studied climate. I'm a mineral geoscientist by my education.
Right.
So I studied paleoclimates, and that's how I got into social media. So I started my degree in geoscience, and then as I started it 13 years ago, I started a social media channel, and that blew up. Basically, 8,000 followers in like 6 months. Wow. So that pulled me out of my degree. My degree went part-time, so it took me like 8 years to finish it, but I got it in the end. So technically, I'm a geologist, paleoclimate, geochemistry, geophysics. That's my background. So as soon as I heard that, I was like, that's wrong. Like, that's geologically incorrect in every sense. There's no way that's 97%. That's the most ridiculous stat I've ever heard in my life. It's remarkable how much those fact checks they did. And if you notice, the fact checks they did for them were always like, they're always right.
Oh yeah.
And even the ones that you got right, they put like anything that you got right, they put like a little subsection of counter to the fact check that you got right.
Well,
did you notice that?
I mean, like I went through about 6 or 7 of them that they did just on me. I mean, the one about the 97%, I remember this from years ago because I looked into this in 2018. I was like, why is this wrong? I was thinking about the co-founder of Greenpeace, Patrick Moore. He debunked this. And it turns out that 97% figure, 66% of those scientists that were polled in that, they actually didn't take a stance and they were excluded from that 97%. I'm sure this is what you found. And I was like, hang on a sec, this is complete crap and manipulation of the data. It's misinformation and at worst disinformation in the sense of what they're doing. But they had the gall to put that old report out. And I was like, hang on, guys, the science, and this is what was cut, my friend. There was a whole hour which was cut. I said that the science isn't about consensus. I mean, Albert Einstein was once presented with a petition from a bunch of scientists. And he said, look, you didn't have to do that. It just took one of you to disprove my theory. That's all it took. And that's what it never made it into the cut of the SBS thing, which I was really upset about. But there were other fact checks where they actually cut what I said, and then from the limited cut that I said, they fact checked that, which was a false statement on its own. I mean, the one about I said that referendums, they don't actually cost that much. They cut out the second half of my sentence, which was they don't cost that much if you do it at an election. Yes, they don't cost 400 mil, but if you do at election, like in the past 100 years, we've done referendums, like 6 of them at an election. It didn't cost $1 billion, even in relative terms and modern day terms. And that's what I was a little bit shitty about SBS's crew. They were lovely, but they really did dig in the dagger with those fact checks.
Yeah, they were propagandists. That's honestly, because I break this whole. I did a breakdown basically for you, and essentially pointed out. I was like, the way they fact checked that, they said, no, this is incorrect. The last referendum was 400 million. I'm like, okay, that's the last referendum. What about all the other referendums? Like, you can't just use the last thing as like, it's like you're not as good as your last game. Then what about all the other games?
Look, elections are expensive. I mean, the last federal election was 500 million. But the point is, you reduce your costs when you do things with an economies of scale. And the idea that Albo did one in between an election, of course, it was going to be as high as it was. But and this is what I was saying. We should do a referendum, or at least some sort of a plebiscite by the Electoral Commission on immigration, should we subscribe to net zero. But they don't want to, and this is what was cut from their comments, because they know they would lose it. They said, you would win that, Joel, because people don't know. And it's like, well, then why are we having an election? And so all this stuff was cut from the interview, and I have it because I recorded the whole thing for my own notes, and because I knew they were going to take me out of context.
Oh, so you actually have the whole thing still?
Yes, I got the whole thing. It's all transcribed. And it's not because I'm going to deploy it maliciously against my other panelists. This is self-defense. Yeah. I mean, what they have done, this is why no one likes the ABC, SBS, and what they've done. The people that I dealt with on the studio, they were lovely people. It was very well presented, very professional. Hello, doggy.
Yes,
but the problem is when you break that level of trust with panelists, I'll come back. My people, they saw how unreasonable our debate opponents were. And I thought we held ourselves with a level of decorum. But for God's sake, the fact checks were astonishing. The censorship and then the fact checks of the censored content was astonishing.
Everything you said is 100%. I totally agree with you. And I felt sorry for you because I could see the major cuts they did make. And by the way, those cuts were terrible. Like, whoever they've hired, I even said in my video, whoever they've hired is like an amateur. Like even the start, did you notice it was like a clip that was just like off cut and it was just really badly done? It was just bad from the up down. And it's disgraceful because this is why there's such a mistrust with the public now, like especially Australians. Like, I'll give it to you right now. The Australian, like your average bloke tradie, They don't give a shit about politics. Like, honestly, they actually don't care. But you go to a country like Indonesia, for example, Bali. Bali's a good place, right? You talk to anyone in Bali, they know their politics because it's so much more important to them. The level of corruption, the everyday, they know every politician by name, everything. It's a completely different scenario here. So it's the same with the media. The Aussies here, call them the Aussie trade, you know, the salt of the earth type people, a lot of them just don't even know. Like, a lot of them don't even know half the green policies. Like the open borders. Like, they just want open borders. That's like, and they would never know that. And it's sad. And it's things like that SBS debate that adds fuel to the fire and makes it worse and worse. So it feels like the mainstream media mission here in Australia is to just dumb down the nation as dumb as possible. That's what it feels like.
Mate, honestly, I welcome it. I welcome it in terms of, if you're going to take me out of context, that's fine. The people hate you. The people hate the mainstream media. That's literally what built my audience during COVID. That's literally, they tried to take me out politically with the character assassinations. Police tried to throw me in jail for 6 months for going and saying what we believe now, which was lockdowns don't work. We shouldn't be forced to take a jab. And, you know, ivermectin can work. All of true. And this is the thing. We look at this situation now and it's like, yeah, keep taking me out of context, because on the SBS feed, I get smashed in the comments. But that's not my audience. I mean, my audience smashes Albo in the comments. I was expecting that. But you guys posting clips on Twitter, you know, some of our people, they're getting smashed. In fact, I watched the whole debate with a few people, a couple of boomers, some younger people, younger girls as well, like late teenage, older girls, girls in their 20s. And they said, what the hell is wrong with Abby? Why is she on this platform with you? You're very clearly on a different level with regards to how you're talking and conducting yourself. But I actually genuinely, I don't mind it. And I would have done it again, because I just love the left doing a masterclass on how unreasonable they are, how they rely on fact checks, how they rely on censorship and cutting up what was out. I mean, one of the worst cuts was the one where they said, you know, coal is unreliable. And I said, it's literally what built the Industrial Revolution. It kicked it off. I said there was more to that, what I said. Totally cut out. And it's like, if the cut version was good, if my audience and a bunch of average Aussies that aren't in my audience liked it, that really tells you, imagine if the full thing was out. Because my memory of the debate was we kicked their ass. In fact, Hannah, on her own story, admitted, and I don't think this is a good thing, but she admitted that she cried that night because she felt like she was inept, but she felt good when the whole thing came out. Now, look, that's, you know, she shouldn't have had to cry. You know, we were literally just having a political discussion. No one was being mean to her. But at the end of the day, it shows you, like, my memory of the debate was very different to what came out at the end. And so, anyways, but look, man.
No, you can tell. You can tell the whole thing is so soulless. You can tell it's been completely cut out, and they've done you a dirty in terms of that. And clearly, my audience, when my audience watches it properly, like especially my breakdown, they'll see in my own eyes. Like I left that in disbelief of how terrible it was. I was like, that was the weakest, like softest, typical Australian debate I've ever seen. Like, they obviously cut this out. The cuts are so bad. And look, and to be fair, they kind of like the public punt. What's his name? The punter guy does he hates all the money companies.
Conrad,
yeah. I like, you know, his contents. He does a good job, and you know what? He seemed a bit more level-headed on their side, but I'm not sure if he said anything else on the, you know.
Mate, what was taken out? Can I tell you what was taken out was actually the most peaceful stuff. It was actually the stuff that we were in agreement of. So what you saw was a supercut of the most edgy stuff.
Okay.
Now, Conrad and I. There was a whole section where him and I went on a unity ticket going after Chevron, going after Santos, and we were saying that I was saying he's absolutely right, but I said, mate, but you're wrong on who to vote for. You know, the Teals and the Greens, they want to phase out gas, whereas Pauline Hanson's the only one, her and Gerard Rennick, are running on a ticket of actually fighting against these guys, making them pay their fair share, but also she has done that under the Morrison government. She forced them to bring down the deductibles from 100% to 90%, bringing in like $2.5 billion into like a profit for the government. And like I said, mate, so we agree on your premise, but the conclusion of how to vote this election, that's where we differ. You know, we're both against the Uni Party, but But you're saying vote teal and green. I'm saying, vote minor right parties. And so that whole section was cut out.
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, look, you could definitely see Abby, like at the start, she was incredibly radical almost. You'd say like she was just behaving like a weirdo. Like that's the best way, like an absolute weirdo. I was like, what is she doing? Like, what? She's just like, oh, I can't believe it. Like all this, like how she does that thing. And then Hannah was like, I felt like an emotional nurse. I don't know, that's the best way to describe it. Like an emotional nurse or something. Like she was about to like perform an operation. I don't know how to describe.
The people I talked to said that I feel anxious every time Hannah speaks. Like it was climate change manifest. And it's like there was actually no reason for it. I mean, the funniest bit where I almost started laughing on set was when Hannah was saying to me on immigration, I feel sad for you, Joel, hearing from an immigrant family that you're saying immigration's too high. I'm like, you can't just bring in like 30% of the nation is foreign born and it's going up to 35, 40%. It like the fact check on that was astonishing. They were like, 31% of New South Wales and Victoria foreign born. Yeah, back in 2021, it's 4 years ago. Like we're talking 35, 40% right now. And that the census will bear that out, I think, in 26. So, I've been keeping my tongue, like I've been focusing on the election because what SBS did was hilarious. But I'm going to have to take them out next week after the election because it's going to be a tough weekend.
Yeah, look, I'll definitely react to that because it was just absolutely disgraceful. And I mean, can't expect anything less from them, right? But let's go into the election. Actually, you bring up the election. Actually, before we go into the election, I'm curious. So let's talk about your rise to fame. What actually happened. So you mentioned because wait, what state are you in? Victoria
New South Wales.
New South Wales. Oh, okay. So. How that's strange because I had a similar arc. Like I always had a social media. So my arc was I started the social. I basically Australia's first Instagram platform. We're all about supporting small businesses, and we never really were political. And then Black Lives Matter happened, and then Adelaide Set turned more political because I got cancelled for the first time, and it was a big cancellation, like massive, right? Like thousands of people screaming at me, like it was messed up. Lost all my friends, not all my lefty friends. I mean to say, because I used to run nightclubs and stuff back in the day, so I had like quite a lefty group. I was kind of like the golden child of the left. And then COVID happened, and we came out staunch. Like I was good friends with Nikolai Petrovsky, so I went to school with his son. And Nikolai Petrovsky, when I was growing up, was always renowned as like the vaccine god of Australia, like super, the best. So I was getting firsthand information from Nikolai, and the whole thing felt shifty. So I was supporting Nikolai throughout the whole process of this situation, because I'm not sure if you heard, he created a vaccine within 2 months of the pandemic. The Australian government refused to acknowledge it. Then they wouldn't accept him into any consultation about how to handle the pandemic. It was a whole mess, right? It was pure corruption at its finest, in my opinion. And then the second cancellation happened, which was made national news. I was all over the news. I had fights with Abby. I had fights with Clementine Ford. It was big, right? But we came out swinging to the point where I think we were a big part of why the Liberal government lost in South Australia, because I was going home I never had police involvement, but I was getting followed by like hooded characters at night. Like it was really dodgy stuff, right?
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty scary stuff. But we eventually came through it fine. But we took a big stance. So we went from like the darling of the left to like right wing. We get called right wing Nazis and all this fascist. Apparently, I lock up my misso in the back room with a chain. Like that's what people think from the left, right? So how did your story go down? Like, I'm super interested. Was it a similar thing? Like, did your rise come from COVID, or was it something happening pre-COVID that then exploded during COVID for you? And by the way, I'm going to speak about a few things. Like, if I'm talking about my past, it's because I'm trying to fill you in so we can relate to each other a bit more. Because I'm not sure how much you know about me and my past.
I don't know. So I appreciate you giving me that background, and it makes sense while we're chatting. But no, I was in the construction industry for 7-8 years, and then I lost my job in mid-2020 due to the lockdowns. So I was one of the canaries in the coal mine that were like, oh, guys, like, the vaccines are coming around the corner. And if you don't think vaccine mandates are going to be a thing, they are. And so I knew I wouldn't get the job back I had for at least 7-8 months, because it was very difficult to get. and was bottom of the rung, and I had a lot of people competing for it. And so I was like, all right, well, let's try my hand at politics, because I want to expose, who's punching you, why they're punching you, and how can you punch back politically. I didn't like that the media were basically, stoking all the fear, and the politicians were making policy on the run with not based in the science, and they weren't answering anything, and they were suspending civil liberties. I was like, all right, that's it. I've been following US politics. I've been following UK politics. Let's basically inform Aussies about how to make a difference in the country. And so 4 weeks into that, I got about 400,000 views online with nothing but iPhones and just filming a podcast. And I realized there was a market. And I ended up 4 weeks into it, my dad passed because he was getting cancer treatment overseas, and he ended up passing because he couldn't get that anymore because of the lockdowns. Yeah, so the lockdowns really killed him in a way. And I was like, well, that sucks. Now I've got to go hard. Like, there's no retreat now. And so I really did. And look, I mean, I don't know how to summarize 5 years now, but essentially I ended up getting 400 million views online. I fought 7 or 8 elections in the last 4 years, state, local, and federal elections. And when it comes to this federal election, a lot of people coming to me and saying, Joel, who should we vote for in our area? What are the parties running on? And so I really pride myself in bringing a lot of transparency to the political system. But I really did build my name from the COVID period, from the lockdowns, from the protest coverage, from the Canberra protest as well.
Yeah.
And I ended up in 2021 coming into the Turning Point Australia brand, thanks to Nigel Farage. He introduced me to Charlie Kirk. So we're the official Turning Point Australia, and it's been under that brand that we've been doing all of our election work. And look, it's been a blast. It's been different, but no, I enjoy serving people. I've come from a very strong Christian background. Orthodox Maronite Middle East background.
Oh, you're Orthodox. Oh, welcome, Orthodox brother.
Ah, there you go. Of course. Birds of a feather flock together. The troublemakers. But it's not so surprising, man. I mean, a lot of Middle Easterns are the ones standing up in Australia nowadays. A lot of the WOGs and the recent immigrants from various countries. I mean, John Bernard is a great TikTok guy. He does some phenomenal segments, like the one where he went to the bank and wanted to withdraw cash, and he said, "Oh, it's for my transgender surgery." So he's actually my cousin. And what's crazy about that is it's like, oh, okay, so the troublemakers are related. So we both got slapped with the same. When we did the 24th of July protest in 2021, we got slapped with the same charges, incitement, which carried 6 months jail. I think we both won in court on that. What was that?
What was the incitement? Like, what were the claims of incitement?
It was like incitement to break telling others to break the health orders. Oh, okay. And I said, all right, throw me in jail. That's going to be great because, you're full of crap. I called their bluff, and most Aussies that got fined called their bluff too. In fact, I think only 90% of the fines weren't paid or something in New South Wales for the COVID stuff. And it is actually so sad because the politicians use the police to actually do their will. Yeah. And I mean, as a result, no one wants to become a police officer. They were focusing on crimes that weren't an issue, whereas there's other issues that haven't been addressed, and the social fabric has further been sort of ripped apart.
So what's your main platform then? If you had to say, like, where would you find most of your audience situated?
It's very much spread, man. I mean, it's 400,000 followers on. Oh, geez. Facebook has like 150,000.
Okay. Wow.
Instagram has 50,000. TikTok has 20,000. Twitter's coming up. It's got 10,000. We've got tons of people's emails. We're on Rumble as well. We got like 10,000 followers there. We had to basically censorship proof ourselves. So we have like 4 accounts on every platform. So it's So it's kind of. It's not that it's untrackable, it's trackable, but this is what happened. Like, we have just come out of COVID, and we're battle-hardened with censorship so that we can keep the work going. Yeah. Like, we got 20,000 on Telegram.
That's lucky you did that because yeah, I had that problem. So when the referendum happened, 3 months before the referendum, they shut down my account completely. So only
Really?
when I say completely, I mean yeah. So only my followers could see my stuff, not non-followers.
Have you
And I was
grown since then?
yeah, I'm at 130,000 on Instagram now. So
But what were you on before the referendum?
before referendum, from memory, 90,000. Ever since pandemic, I went from about 50,000 to about 130,000.
That's
But
interesting.
but the referendum, I didn't gain or lose like a net. But so the day after the referendum finished, they gave my account back to full capacity.
Oh, okay.
So I was I was talking to parliamentarians about doing FOIs to figure out exactly who politically targeted me. I sent legal letters to every single to Instagram. TikTok was also doing the same thing. I sent legal letters basically saying, "Hey, you're not allowed to legally politically target me like this. You can't just shut down my account for no reason." But right before a referendum, like that's BS.
Yeah,
And I did the whole
but it's completely undemocratic. My Instagram for Turning Point Australia and Joel Jamal, they have 50,000 followers combined. They haven't grown in 4 years.
Really?
Yeah. So every time, like for example, I just posted a reel yesterday, it got 1.2 million views, 100 new followers,
Damn.
100.
So I can teach you. I can teach you I'll teach off. I got strategies that I've from 13 years of doing this to work around all the little. That's how I've grown because I've got really hardcore. Like I'm a meta gamer, by the way, so I love video games. And I'm always.
I would appreciate that.
Yeah, I can. I'll share some insight. I'll do it off air because I don't want to tell them how I'm doing this.
No, of course, no. That'd be great. Look, clearly, what happened to my account was it was some kind of a manual, like censorship, where they're like that guy. Like, it wasn't like an algorithmic censorship.
Yeah,
and I know that because after my covering of the Victorian protests in November 2021, every time I go up in followers 100, I go down in followers 100. So it always stays like net zero. And it's bizarre. It's bizarre, the whole thing. And it's not like I'm not getting views. As I said, like I'm getting millions of views every month on my Instagram. It's like, why is it not translated? So I guess we can chat about that off camera.
We'll chat off camera. I'll just say a little bit now. There's ways to where you go, like I was doing virality to like extreme amounts. Like I was thinking 150 million views. And to the point where I gained like 10,000 followers from one video in the space of 2 weeks because the video went so viral, they couldn't control how powerful this video went. Like it went off, and so I'm kind of leading into how you do it, but it might not be something it's a bit unorthodox, but it works. And know it's working for me because I'm still getting followers. Yeah, look, I lose followers here and there from like maybe I get a bit too radical sometimes, and I say things that, and when I say radical, I mean like maybe like having Dr. Joanna Howe on my platform. Like so I'm not sure if you know who Dr. Joanna Howe is, but she is a lovely lady I met couple years ago, and I saw her content, so I was like, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna just chuck on the Adelaide Set as much as I can. And she went from like 4,000 followers, now she's on like 40,000 followers. I was just collab posting everything, and I basically turned every white girl against me. But actually, that's another thing. It's so funny watching you three immigrants sitting there on the chair, and then these three white knights sitting there talking about how much they need immigration. I was like, you mother truckers are like the whitest people.
Mate, it wasn't even. I was blindsided because I had Trish also arguing with me. Trisha, the intellectual from the Centre for Independent Studies who are pro-immigration. And she's like, oh, we're the envy of the world. And I'm like, excuse me, my bishop was stabbed a year ago in the freaking eye. And it was from a 15-year-old Muslim kid. So very clearly we've got integration problems. And I never got to say that because, like, mate, you should have seen how much was cut out. That wasn't said, but I wanted to say it. But it was like the whole thing was cut short. Yeah. And I couldn't even get a word out. It's like they just sort of screaming banshees almost on the left.
Yeah, we need to, you know what we need to do? I was talking to Freya about this. We need to come together now because we've all built our own platforms now. And if we really want to get somewhere, we need to start coming together like they are in America. Like the Jordan Petersons, even the Shapiros, even the Asmongold of this world, they're all coming together now and aligning their forces and actually creating great turbulence in America. The left are really scrambling right now in America. Like they're all over the place. They're internally they're eating each other alive, their own people. And it's because there's such a unity now in America. And even when Trump makes mistakes, and don't get me wrong, he's made plenty of mistakes. Like even COVID, I was very angry at Trump because Trump was the whole brainchild behind, Warp Speed, who basically
yeah.
started the kickstarted the whole thing. And my assumption is Trump just probably didn't even know what the hell he was doing, but he still did it. So, you know, there's
Yeah, but you're not wrong, though. I mean, the life cycle of a podcast is basically you get on, you put value out there, videos out there. Does it give people value? They'll stay around. Can you turn that into monetization to actually upgrade the quality, keep things going, offload some of the work? Beautiful. Next phase. Find other podcasters that do that. Collaborate. Next phase. You put it under an umbrella, a network like the Daily Wire, like the Blaze TV, like various other forms, and that's pretty much what needs to happen in Australia. I did notice ADHTV did try to do that. They're now becoming Newsmax, but the problem they made from the start was they went to stage 3 rather than go through the motions of here's a podcaster, they've managed to accrue followers and give people value so that people are coming back, they've got eyeballs. They then now to manage to monetize it in their own way. Then you move to the next phase where you start coddling them together. They skipped that. They went straight to the actual phase of coddling people together that we don't even know if people want it, and we don't even know if we can monetize it. So you have a ton of wastage in terms of not freeloaders, but people that they're not adding value that materializes monetarily. And if you can't do that, then the platform is bound to fail from the start. And I mean, they approached me to join, and I said, look, I don't need you guys. I mean, I already have my stuff, getting out there, and it's already monetized. I don't need you guys. Like, unless you're going to give me a contract like Joe Rogan style, where he went to Spotify and he got the security of knowing he gets a couple $100 million, over 3 or 4 years or whatever it is. If you can't give me that security, there's no point in me doing it.
Yeah.
I'll just do my own thing and get 100% of the benefits.
Yeah, so that was my battle as well. So I was working for Sky News. I still technically am part of Sky News, and I worked for David Spears, who was the opposition leader here. Then I worked for One Nation. So I was always in politics. That's how I think I first come across you, actually. Right. I'm not sure. Did you come when Pauline Hanson came down to Adelaide at the Entertainment Centre? Were you there for that?
I don't think so.
Maybe it was an Alex Antic event. And then I worked for Alex Antic for about a year and a half. And I think that's where I saw you at the race course, potentially. Were you at that the Greyhound? Were you and some other guy?
I didn't. And another Arab with worse eyebrows than mine.
No, I swear I must. Okay. Anyways, I saw you somewhere, and I was like, "Who's that guy? He looks interesting." There we go. We're back to that again. And then I looked at your content. Oh, good, because there's before that, I thought I was alone in this. Like, I literally thought it was just a single fighter, and it's very disheartening. But I just had to keep going because at the end of the day, if something's true to your heart, and because this could be Christian values, you have to persevere through that, all the hardship that occurs. So to hear your story, how you had a job, stable, your father's passed, like that's a big thing for a man to lose their father. That's one of the biggest things that can happen to you as a man. And then to find your own way through all that, threatened to put in jail, found your voice, found your audience, and then deliver that. Of course, that's what keeps an audience, because they will know all that. You can't just buy that. That's something you earn through hours and hours of blood, sweat, and tears. It's not something you just buy. You have to earn it. And I think that's another thing. Same with Freya. Like Freya, 19 years old, put herself out there. A lot of hate for Freya on TikTok. You see it. She gets stitched up more than anyone I've seen. So
mate, I tell you what. If there's one thing I've noticed over the last 5 years, because I've helped a lot of influencers grow their following, men and women, and I'm not even saying this as like, oh, Joel, you just worship women and whatever. You're just trying to suck up to them. No, like women influencers have the most putrid inbox. Like, I put myself out there even after this SBS thing, and I maybe got like 2 or 3 hate messages sent to me direct. Like one guy saying, "Oh, you've got a very punchable face," which I thought was hilarious.
I saw that. Yeah.
But because you see this photo of the guy, and it's like, mate, were you actually trying to take a photo of yourself with a punchable face? Anyway, so, but the girls, like, it's like rape stuff. It's brutal. It's about their looks. It's like, what the hell? And the volume. I don't know what it is about women talking about politics, but the amount of hate that they attract from, not because it's their fault, but like that other people, women especially, and then men going after them and just criticizing them.
Yeah.
Quite often people on the left that are saying, oh, love and tolerance, they're going after them and being like, you're ugly or this and that to these girls. I mean, the sheer volume is nuts.
Yeah.
And it's a shame,
Well, have you heard the saying, who hates women more than anyone else? Other women.
Yeah, that's true.
It's kind of true. I'll tell you a story, actually. It's funny you bring that up. So my third cancellation was quite recent. It's because there's a barber shop here called Robbie's Chop Shop. And there's this girl called Elena T. She's like an Abby Chatfield light, like big following on TikTok. And she did this whole video basically slagging this barber shop because it's men only. Women aren't allowed in the premises. And it turned into a shitstorm. And I basically stepped in on the Adelaide set and supported them. And overnight, it was like hundreds of thousands of views. I think they got like 20% rise in sales because of this video I made, right? So she lost her marbles, dude. The following night, and she called me a right-wing pig, white supremacist, that my partner's been locked up and I'm a misogynist who hates her and all this stuff. The next day, I'm getting phone calls and messages at I don't even told anyone this, by the way. I was going to keep it to myself, but now you mention it. I was getting phone calls and images sent to me, of Tatum, who's my partner, of her, her modeling photos. I'm saying, oh, I'm so keen to do terrible things to her, all this stuff. This is from the tolerant left, by the way. Then saying they're going to come to my house and kill me to come to another location. So I had to call the police and go, hey, I've got this guy who wants to kill me. What do I do? And they said, just ignore it. Disengage, ignore it. But it was the first time in my life I realized the left are not just intolerant, they're malevolent, they are dangerous, they are scary, and they are almost possessed by almost an evil force, I would say, some sort of demonic evil force who would do anything in their power to destroy you. Yeah. And the reason why I want to share this with you is because I'm sure you felt it. I'm sure when you've done a video that's gone off viral and it's been very controversial, but in a good way, you're speaking some truth, you can feel almost an energetic attack happening. You can feel these piercing, the Greek evil eye. You feel the evil eye is coming at you. You have to have protection there. And anyone out there who wants to do what Joel and I are doing on social media, you have to be prepared for the enormous amount of darkness that comes. And you might not, you can't see it, you can't feel, you can't see it, you can't touch it, but you can feel it.
I totally agree, mate.
Yeah, you get that?
No, I totally agree, and 100% I feel it. I mean, I get sick every time I go to Melbourne or Canberra. I get sick because people are like, oh, the energy, you're talking about energy. Genuinely, it's demonic. Melbourne is bloody demonic. Every time I go there, I get sick. I got sick when I came back from Washington, D.C. And, some people might discard these things as being whatever. I went to Africa. I went to South Africa, Zimbabwe, didn't get sick, perfectly fine. Whereas I go to these centers of power and it's what is going on here? What is in the water? Yep. It's crazy.
Same as Parliament House. So when I worked in state parliament, I felt sick. That place is cursed. The South Australian Parliament. I'm not sure if it's the same. I've never been to federal parliament. I'm not sure if you've been to federal parliament. I'm sure there'd be something in the air there as well, because there is definitely a dark... And that's the thing, this battle of the truth, and with social media, where do you see your future heading in terms of what's your mission? Is there an underlying mission you have, or are you kind of just going with the flow and just seeing where things land for you? Or is there an overarching what's your impossible mission of life, if that makes sense?
Oh, look, very, very clearly, my I don't want to run. That's for sure. A lot of people are like, oh, Joel, you talk about politics. When are you running? I actually don't want to run because I look at the landscape and I realize we've got plenty of good people running, but they don't know how to get elected. That's the problem. But I can help with that, and that's what I do. These elections, I'm very keen to see, for example, what happens in the Hunter Valley with Stuart Bonds. I reckon he could win that for One Nation.
That'd be cool.
But look, I look at the landscape and I realize if you look at what the Americans have done, Charlie Kirk, Turning Point USA, I just came back from a trip over there talking to them about this. They said, Joel, it's all about permanent infrastructure. You've got to build that up. You've got to build the connections up with people. You've got to give them the tools at the election to make a difference, and they will make a difference. And that's what they didn't have in 2020, but they built in the 4 years after that, leading into 2024. And that's why they were so successful with the popular vote, swing states, Congress, and the Senate. And so I take lesson from that. It's Joel, that's where your focuses are. You've clearly got an eye for it. No one's doing, literally no one does what we do. And I'm not saying, oh, there's a tiny group here or there that does it, or I'm ignoring competitors. Literally no one fights local, state, federal, and referendums. We are the only organization that does that on our side of politics, and even on the left. No one on the left does it. And so we're crazy. Like, we are just here. We enjoy what we do very clearly. You got to enjoy it, otherwise you won't last. But no, I really enjoy it. I love the battle of ideas. I love having conversations with people on the panel. That's what my role is, as journalistically, with political commentary and political activism. It all fits under those three things, and that's pretty much it. Because we've got plenty of good people running, but like Gerard Rennick, Malcolm Roberts in Queensland. But we're going to lose one. We're going to lose one this election because we couldn't get organised in Queensland.
So what's your take on this election then? What are your predictions?
Look, I've been utterly consistent since October last year. A Labor minority, and the reason why that is because we're going to see the Liberals and the other third-party campaigners, and I know because I have the list of target seats. They're targeting the wrong seats. They were meant to be targeting the highest no-voting seats that Labor and the left hold. But instead, they decided to go after marginal seats, which is not based off the yes-no vote. It's based off the two-party preferred vote. And that means they went after Green and Teal seats and certain Labor seats that they couldn't win. And so they've completely spent millions of dollars on the wrong seats. And as a result, back in October, I was like, this is game, set, match. Like, it's going to be either Labor minority in the lower house, and then for the upper house, it's probably going to be the Greens and the David Pocock that control the balance of power, and Jackie Lambie, so like what we just had. But we might have a miracle in the ACT. We might have a miracle in South Australia and Queensland. We might get more senators up than I was expecting. But, mate, we're in for some hurt. Yeah. And, I mean, we've been talking about the media landscape, how we've got to work together more, which I welcome. But the parties, man, I mean, there's 6 to 8 freedom parties and the Liberal Party fighting over, 15% of the vote. I mean, these guys are just, they're wasting everyone's time. They're candidates, they're volunteers, they're voters. And this is basically a rerun of the Victorian state election in 2022. And so, yeah, look, it doesn't bring me any joy in saying that, but we've got to recognize the difficult truth and come to peace with it so we can move forward. It's the first step to fixing the problem.
What has caused such tactical nightmare in regards, especially to the Liberals, that the Liberals have felt for a long time now, like even since the pandemic, I'd say their soul has been ripped out of them. Like their backbone is gone. Their policies don't reflect true values that most common sense Australians really follow. Their weakness during the pandemic was so everyone could see it. They just felt like it was just so weak. It was pathetic almost. Why do you think this happened? What's caused such a downfall for the Liberal Party, you reckon, in your analysis?
Well, they're too busy fighting with themselves than fighting the actual enemy, but specifically, they've been white-anted. There's a bunch of people that join the Liberal Party that don't subscribe to the founding document of that party, which is the Menzies We Believe statement. Alex Antic does. Senator Antic of South Australia, he subscribes to it, but the problem is his faction is only about 40% of the party nationally. And unfortunately, there are other people that have joined the party because it was a way of joining the club and actually being able to connect and influence and get further your own business interests and all of that. And our politicians, they sell themselves so cheaply. It's astonishing who they will sell out for and for how much. So essentially what's happened is the Liberal Party, especially in New South Wales and the eastern states, they've been taken over by renewables. So they're backed by lobbyists and people that are actually for renewables, which is why they won't stand up on climate change. It's why they can't, people like Freya, they can't actually say, I don't think we should do net zero. And I like Freya, but unfortunately she works for some of these third-party campaigners that are at peace with net zero. They won't challenge it because it's considered unelectable. You're unelectable if you don't. And that's the real problem we've got. We've got a Liberal Party that doesn't stand for what its founding document was, the Menzies We Believe statement. They've taken that off their website, I do believe now.
Wow.
And it's not fit for purpose. It's now just a vehicle to get into government so you can get your jobs and you can pay off the people that helped you get elected. That's all it is now. It's just a grey entity. Hence the rise of the freedom parties during COVID. Why the freedom parties aren't getting anywhere is because there's like 10 of them. I think there's like 21 of them around the country on a state and federal level.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they can't get out of their own way. And the reason why that is, I mean, you guys know the answer. The short answer is it's egos. But if you ask the voters, so people that listen to this program that most likely going to vote freedom parties, they all want the parties to come together. If you ask the volunteers, they volunteer for these parties. They want the parties to come together. The candidates, they want the parties to come together. But this upper echelon of the political parties that run for the Senate, these candidates that are the heads of the parties, they are the ones that won't. They all want to be the saviors of the right in Australia, and that's the real problem. And so this is why the freedom community that fight over about 15-20% of the vote, you know, these 21 of them, this is why we can't get anywhere. And they're all running on the same platform. And I know because I do resources on my website, tpaust.com.au, where you can see the policy matrix of what they're running on this election. And they're all in alignment.
Yeah.
And it's like, when are voters, candidates, and volunteers of these parties going to basically riot with these freedom parties and say, that's it, you're not getting another dollar from us, you're not getting another minute of my time, you're not getting another vote until you cut the crap and come together. And we're starting to see that. I mean, in my state of New South Wales, we've got a coalition ticket happening. We've got Gerard Rennick's party with the Libertarian Party, with the Heart Party.
Yeah.
They've come together, and we're going to see if that's successful or not, or if it's more successful than if they were split. And we know what the answer is going to be. Of course it's better because you don't have preference inefficiencies. But the parties, just the leadership at the top, they all want to be senator. They all want to be able to pay off the people that donated to them or helped them and put them, you know, give someone that helped them in the campaign, you know, you'll be my consultant in Canberra or whatever. So, and this is why I'm not in a party, mate. I got to call it out.
Yeah. You know, honestly, I fully feel that. I'll say two things. Like, yeah, I feel like what you just described is ancient Greece. Ancient Greece was a city-states, Athens and Sparta and Macedonia. All these city-states, they had very similar culture. They spoke the same language, very similar beliefs in many ways, but they were at war with each other all the time. And it took something big like the Persian Empire. I'm sure you did the Persians, mate. The Persian Empire to come in and be a really significant threat for Greece to finally unite under one banner and actually go and conquer or try and at least fight for Greece, fight for democracy in essence. And I feel like we're at that point now. Even if you look at it in a macro sense of Canada with the UK and what's happening there, that's our future. If Australia doesn't watch out, that's us in 5 to 10 years. Where 4,000 people being put away for thought crimes, where you can pray out in the streets and be arrested for praying. Stuff like that is coming to this country if we don't watch out. We saw the Labor Party throughout the whole last 4 years of their digital ID bill, with all these, with the hate speech stuff. Even, and they hide it, and they use things like this Israel-Palestine, you know, any global, they use the Israel-Palestine or the Ukraine, Russian war. They use these things as little anchor points to slowly checkpoint their way and slowly build these laws and slowly build foundations to create almost like a communistic, technocratic, one government kind of thing here in Australia. And if we don't watch out, we're going to move to that very quickly. And by the time we realize, it's going to be too late, and the parties need to step in, because we're going to lose this country. Like, honestly, I'm not joking, Joel. I fear what this country will be like in 10 to 20 years. Like, I genuinely have a fear here. Such a beautiful place could be destroyed.
Oh, we will lose it. And this is the crazy thing. People are going to look at these clips from this debate I did with Abby, and mate, it was a clash of cultures. Like, I'm from a traditional Middle East family. and a Christian background. This was a clash of cultures. And her saying, just, let him in, let him in, let all the immigrants in. I'm like, are you nuts? Are you nuts? She's going to eat those words when women in Australia are being raped, and we've got an absolute epidemic of rape in this country because we're not properly filtering who's coming in and how quickly they're coming in, and we're not actually heeding the warnings. I'm not saying this because I'm a racist, for God's sake. Literally, mate, they thought I was evil by the end of it. I didn't think they were evil by the end of it. I already thought they were evil.
You're evil, yeah.
But I actually better understood them by the end of it, to the point that I actually liked them a lot.
Yeah.
The guy, even, Conrad and the girls, because I understood, look, I get it. Like, we're not going to agree on this, and but time will vindicate me. Time will vindicate me. And that's the difference between, I think the left, they're just like, oh, you're evil. Whereas I'm like, no, this is just a political disagreement. But this country is going to hell in a handbasket. One of the things that encourages me is we won't be the first. I look at the UK and I look at the work of Turning Point UK, and I think, what would I do in that case? I don't know. I think they're close to a race war. I mean, I don't know that you can pull the UK back from the brink without some kind of a crazy war. And it's not going to be, it's going to be bloody messy. And I would never, encourage some kind of a revolution, but for God's sake, how far the UK has fallen is nuts.
Yeah, it's insane. And that's why history is so important. I to your followers and my followers, study history. I recently studied the War of Independence of Greece, right? 400 years of Ottoman rule. And what finally took 400 years to gain our freedom was literally secret societies coming together, like the Freemasons, for example, were a huge part of the Greek independence war. Not many people know this. So there's a group called the Philokalia, which were a group originally from Ukraine who were rich Greek merchants who were part of the Masons. I'm not sure if you know what the Freemasons are, right? So they went around Europe and gathered money from aristocrats from England who had like sympathy towards the Greek cause. There's a guy called Lord Byron, very famous aristocrat, who died in a battlefield in Greece. He left England to go fight in Greece and died. Had no reason to be there. Lived like a very, very, very wealthy man, and it had to turn to this bloody civil war where like tons of thousands of people were basically massacred to finally gain Greece's freedom back. And now Greece is still like a shit show at the moment. But they finally got their independence. But what you're saying is true. It only leads to war. All this only leads to bloodshed. It only leads to violence, unfortunately. And we're not condoning. We're not saying, oh, we're pro-violence. We're just saying the history shows that if you do A to B, C, leads to war, leads to battle, leads to all these terrible things that no one wants. But we are being pushed down that pathway. And watching your side and their side, it felt like watching that debate. I was like it felt like I was watching, like, I don't know how to even describe it. It was like pathetic ideology versus people I want to listen to, but everything they're saying is being cut. Like it was like trying to watch pathetic babies throw out ideological delusions versus people who have a chance, but obviously being fact-checked and being cut out the whole entire time. So nothing seems to be going our way. I'd say, look, maybe, it is down to us to come together now and actually do this. And I'll say this again to Freya, I'll say it to you, because, look, we don't want to lose this country, do we? Like, we've got to do something about this. And I'm fighting the good fight in South Australia, but it's a tough fight. It's been 6-7 years and it's punishing. But we now got the Dr. Joanna Howes. We got me. We got others in South Australia who are growing. You'll see. I'm sure there's people in New South Wales. There's a famous influencer who was like a property guy, right? He's starting to coming out now and doing a lot more political stuff these days.
Matt Berry?
He's an Arab guy as well, I think. And he was mostly just like, entrepreneurship, property, and then now he's come out as Christian. He's doing all these like type of videos. So there are influencers out there. In Victoria is probably the hot spot of our concern at the moment. Victoria seems to be lost. Before I let you go, what's what's your predictions for Victoria in terms of the way it's heading the next 5 years? Do you see any sort of light from what you understand from the people you've talked to? Do you see some positive news coming about Victoria? Do you think they can turn it around over there? Can they make a turning point?
Well, look, they won The Voice down there, so it's possible. I mean, what did they pass it with? Like they rejected The Voice 55% or something. I mean, it's possible, but the real question is, how do you reduce the level of inefficiencies with votes? How do you get these freedom parties to come together? And how do you get the Liberal Party to be liberal again? I mean, conservative again? It's going to require some work. And the work starts on Sunday when we get a disappointing result on the weekend. Because November next year, 2026, is when the Victorian state election is on. And we fought the last state election. And it's going to be a very different state election this time, very different. Not saying it'll be positive, but it'll be very different compared to the last one. The last one was insane. Emotions were high. We've got a new Liberal leader now, which is better than the one that kicked Moira Deeming out. But also we've got the Adelaide, the South Australia election coming up as well in March next year, which I'm going to be playing a much larger role this time. Last time, we underestimated how restrictive your laws were with regards to how to vote cards. We can't do how to vote cards in your state unless it's endorsed by a candidate. And which candidate's going to endorse all of the Turning Point Australia how to vote cards? You know? So we've worked out how we're going to get around that already, multiple ways. But then we've also got local elections in WA in August. We've got a New Zealand election coming up, and I'm getting requests to help over there. Maybe we can make Anzac mean something again. So yeah, no man, the work is plentiful, but the workers are few. I think the line is the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. And so I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm going to learn from the other freedom fighters around the world that we can learn a few tactics from, and bring it back to Australia so we can all benefit.
Well, before I leave you to it, I'll give you one hot tip, and take it with a grain of salt if you want. But the word on the street is in the Labor Party, and they're very good at keeping secrets, but not good enough, is that South Australian Premier Peter Malinauskas is being mentored by Dan Andrews himself to become, and the Labor Party, to become the next Prime Minister and probably South Australia's first ever Prime Minister. That's his next 10 to 15 year journey. So for us, for you guys at Turning Point, for us out there, that's a big threat because, one, he's incredibly good looking, which makes a huge difference in politics, as everyone knows. He's charismatic, he speaks very well, and he's loved, adored by women. And it's a little bit worrisome because right now I look around the Liberal Party and I don't see anything like that coming out. I don't see a new hope. I mean, Alex Antic, I don't think is ever going to step into like a leadership role like that. He will work behind, do his thing from the shadows, but I don't think he will ever become Prime Minister, no matter how many people want him to be Prime Minister. And a lot of people do want Alex Antic to be Prime Minister. We really need to pull in right now. Like, I feel like these next year or two is critical in this battle. And I applaud you, Joel. I'm sorry for saying you look weird, but it was said.
No,
like a friendly.
mate,
I'm a friendly. I grew up with my friends and I would give each other a lot of banter, right? So and even my friends
mate.
now.
Mate, I think I look weird. I mean, I look at it and I'm like, how are there not more cartoons done of me? Like I just. No,
Hey, mate.
I just honestly, I roll with the punches. When I was in school, we did the same thing. We all did the same thing. I used to take the piss out of my Asian mates. They took the piss out of me. They'd say, "Joel, you're the bomb." And when they'd get a speck of dust in their eye, I'd say, "That's impossible." This is Australia,
Yeah.
And the best way to get over, let's call it racism for the sake of it, is humor. Yeah. And as long as we're all equally racist, it's just fine.
That's right. I don't hate one race. I hate all races.
That's right. All equally. Mate, I'm the first to call out Lebos. I'm like, bloody dodgy Lebos, Why did you cut corners on this construction?
Yeah. Why is my building falling apart?
Literally, this isn't America. I mean, a lot of people, they want to get all hot and bothered about, like, there's discrimination. It's like, mate, we all discriminate. You know, for God's sake. I mean,
Yeah.
for God, it just is what it is, man. This is Australia. You know, this isn't like the UK where there's like a tiered system, and you're above your tier and
nepotism.
class. You've forgotten your place. It's like, no, this is Australia. We'll take the piss out of each other, no matter if you're the Prime Minister or if you're one of his Asian Labor polling workers that just wanted a selfie with him.
Yeah, that poor lady. All right,
That's why thank you. So hard. That's the culture.
Hey, that's what we do. It's a culture of banter.
No, my pleasure, mate. And look, I take my hat off to you for doing something that's definitely let's just say it wasn't what your mum had in mind.
No.
For what you were probably going to do, I'd imagine.
Greek doctor, or work in the mines. Well, she wanted me to work in the mines. That's why I did a mining degree, basically.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Well,
yeah, she was like the money or something. Yeah, the money. But no, man, look, there's certainly more stable professions. And so it's not for the faint-hearted. Putting yourself out there on social media, it certainly cops some unusual attacks. And so, no, I take my hat off to you too. And I definitely welcome the spirit of collaboration, because we're going to need everyone to save this country. We really are. And anyone that says otherwise is trying to sell you something.
Yeah, 100%. Well, thank you. And have a great weekend, because we're going to need it.